So I had the same ballet teacher for 5.5 years, 6 days a week, 5.5 hours a day. His name is Anatoly Kucheruk. He still teaches. I think he's a ballet master with the National Opera in Tbilisi, Georgia now. But he was my teacher. He was the one who brought me up, who taught me pretty much everything I knew as a ballet dancer. And not only was he an inspiring dancer himself, but it was always, he always knew exactly what to say to get us to push ourselves harder and to challenge ourselves to exert that disciplined work and practice that we needed to do to get better every day. And I think it was that perseverance that he instilled in us that allowed me to have the career that I have and that I now try to instill in my dancers as well. So my teacher used to always say to me when we would come into class, boys, I know that it's going to be hard work, but we have to do it. And I think if anything that has stuck with me, especially now later in my life when I look back and I think about the times when I was tired or things were hard or I didn't have necessarily the motivation to get through it, it was looking at it and saying, well, you know what, if I do this hard work and I get through it, then I will have lived through that challenge and it's a lesson learned and I can move on. And I think that's something that I instill and have brought with me and I bring to my children, I bring to my students, my adult and young students, that every day is a chance to improve, and sometimes it's going to be hard, sometimes it's going to be easy, but if you take that process of improvement every day and work towards a goal and challenge yourself, that will continue to take you to the destination that you're looking forward to. When it comes to creating an inspiring ballet class, I think it's really important that our experience as artists influences what we're developing in our students. So oftentimes I will utilize certain opportunities within the class to tell a story about my career or my experience as a dancer. And I find that oftentimes it's the relaying of that experience and the student being able to live through my experiences that helps them to become inspired. It's not always verbal, sometimes it's through watching the way that I would give a combination or the corrections that I give, but I think it's really important that we utilize the experiences that have been passed down to us as artists, and then we continue to pass those on to our students. That allows for the inspiration to develop in the next generation. I think as someone who is imparting information, we're always going to have those times where we start to feel a little bit like an imposter. Like, why would people listen to us? Why would someone want to learn from me? And I think it's in those moments that we have to reflect on the experiences that we've had and understand that those experiences, regardless of whether they were incredible or not, are opportunities for other people to learn. So we all go through challenges in life, we all go through difficult moments, but it's those difficult and challenging moments that actually help us to become better coaches. Because if you're going through a challenging moment, you can look at that and say, other people are going to go through this challenging moment as well. How have I dealt with it? Maybe I can then impart that wisdom onto them and help them to deal with the same challenges. I think it's important to use those doubtful moments or those times when we're not so confident to understand that that's what's actually going to make us better teachers and better coaches, and that will bring us through and help us to become the best that we can possibly be. I think one of my biggest talents at this point is actually telling stories. So interestingly enough, when I was a dancer, I was very quiet and people probably would remember me as being the one who never spoke much. But since I've become a teacher and a coach, I realized that it's important to impart stories and impart wisdom to people because that allows them to relate to whatever it is that you're teaching them. So if you're just giving them a dry correction without any understanding or any meaning, they're not necessarily going to take that on board and fully understand it. Whereas if you can give them something that gives them a story or a connection to something else that maybe they already understand, that will help them to develop that process. And I find that that's something that I am able to do really well. In addition to utilizing the anatomy of the body and explaining how the body works to help young dancers to enhance their technique and enhance the connections neurologically to become better dancers. I think my biggest piece of advice at this point to any other teachers or even to students is to learn how to ask the right questions. And it doesn't always mean that you ask them out loud. It could be that you have that internal dialogue, but sometimes you just have to ask, how do I do this? And it doesn't mean that oh, how do I do that step? What it means is maybe you're in a challenging place. Maybe you're in a place where you're struggling or you don't know how to improve. And instead of saying, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, this is too hard, you say, how do I achieve this? How do I do more pirouettes? How do I get a higher jump? And usually what will happen is that answer doesn't come immediately. But if you continue to ask that question and then go on a search for the answer, I can almost guarantee 99% of the time you're going to find the answer that you need. So be willing to ask questions, find the people who have already done it before you, ask them how to do it, find those people who are already successful or who are already where you want to be, and align yourself with them and learn from them, because that is the absolute best way to improve and become better.